going to get started with our fantastic speaker, Janet Cornell. She is talking about Colorado's quality management plan compliance. We've got a lot of folks who are struggling with this out there, and I am just going to let her take it away and wow us with her knowledge and help us get corrected. Take it away, Janet.
All right.
Hang on a second here.
Peter's got to start the slide. I'm trying to help you guys know that quality management program or plan is not as hard as it seems. And you'll see in the slides, it's really not that hard. People make it harder than it should be. And then they write it, so it's really hard, and then they have to comply with their really hard plan. So it can work against you to feel like when I first did my plan, I picked like 17 items, and then I had to be compliant with all 17 of them. I'm like, why did I do that to myself? Why didn't I do like 5? So that's what I learned from doing this. If some of you don't know me, my name's Janet Cornell. I'm doing consulting now. I used to be the administrator of 8 group homes. I started being the administrator in 2007, and I just recently jumped out about a year ago. So now I'm doing consulting, helping other group homeowners that are either new to the business or are struggling, help get their operations back in order, because I had been there for about 2 years. I was naive enough to take over 8 homes thinking, oh, how hard can it be? And then I felt like I was drowning for like 2 years. So I learned the hard way of how to put systems in place, how to know what works, how to know what stays compliant. If you have a process in place, it has to stay compliant. And that's why we want to talk about the quality management plan this evening, is to show you guys how that can be. Okay, so the plan, very, very easily, we're going to cover what is it, why is a quality management plan important, how to design one, how to use it, and if you use it, then it should help you to improve your operations. That's what the idea is. First of all, why is it important? It's in part 4 of chapter 2 of the regulations for the Colorado State Health Department. They came up with this idea probably about 2014 that even small places should have quality management plans. A lot of the larger places have something called QAPI, but now ours is called quality management plans. And you have to design it to improve the client safety and well-being. The client and safety component of the program shall implement, this is the actual reg, so actually implement improvements in response to patterns and trends associated with service delivery errors or potential errors. The client well-being component of the program shall implement improvements that are not necessarily tied to errors or potential for error, but instead the continuous quality improvement principle that opportunities always exist to enhance service delivery. So that doesn't even make sense if you read that. It's 2 run-on sentences, first of all, and then what is a quality, what is a service delivery error? So
I'm just real quick, I'm dropping in a link so that those online can grab a copy of this handout.
Oh, okay, because I included a handout. It's actually pretty easy to write one, so I just kind of gave you a template. Yeah, so that's hard to understand because it's 2 run-on sentences, and nobody knows what service delivery error is. That to me sounds like it's a post office problem. It's not something we deal with in assisted living, a service delivery error. So I thought we would put this in easier terms. First of all, don't make this process more difficult than it needs to be. It really is pretty easy. You decide who will be a part of your quality management team. It can't be only you. You have to have at least 2 people. Even if you only have an 8-bed facility, you have to be doing regular meetings with people. It's not that hard. The team always has to include the administrator. This is not something you can just farm out and not be a part of. It has to include the administrator. It could include the house manager or a few of the staff members too, but really, if you have other people involved, you get better ideas from them, especially if you're not the one working the home. It can be only 2 or 3 people, or it can be up to 6 to 10 people. I think 6 to 10 people is for really somebody that has maybe 16 homes. You want 1 representative from each home, something like that. The step 1 is really easy. Decide the areas that you need to have improvements in, or what has caused risk for your residents. Only decide 4 or 5 areas though. Like I said, I had 17 because I was going to be super awesome at this, and then I just caused myself more problems. Medication administration does have to be one of your areas of focus. This is kind of confusing because it's not in regulation that it has to be medication administration, but then the state will cite you that you didn't put it in there. So medication administration does have to be in there. You can find things like, these are some examples of what I used. My staff records were never up to date. I was always missing something. Somebody had an expired certificate. Somebody didn't get all their training, something like that. So we decided on staff records. We also decided on residents falling because I ran dementia homes, and that was a huge risk factor for them, is falling. So there was holes in the MARs all the time. We couldn't figure out, why do we keep having holes in the MARs? Or staff are leaving their shift before their designated housekeeping items are done. And so we decided on these. We kept them for 3 months, and those are not that hard of items. Then you have to decide how, or you have to actually write in your plan, how did you decide on those areas of focus, or as they call it in the regulation, a service delivery error? Well, you can look at your past surveys. That would be a good starting point, because if it showed up on your survey, it wasn't done correctly to begin with. You can look at other industry standards. What's hot topics in the industry? Staffing files is always getting cited in regulation. Medication administration things are always getting cited. Safety issues are a concern. So you can do industry standards. You can do issues that you generally want to improve. What if your food service is just not that great and you want to improve that? You can do that through your quality management plan. What you're doing is deciding what you're going to work on, and then you're going to watch it for 90 days and come up with some ideas of how to improve that. You can also get it from staff complaints. What if they don't like the way something's happening? Family requests or suggestions are another one. Some of you guys do family meetings, and somebody might have a question or an idea for you. You can use all of those. But how you decided on your projects has to be listed in your plan. You can't just say, well, we decided. So you have to list those in your plan. There's all kinds of other ideas you can collect information from, but those are just some suggestions. But you do have to list those on how you decided on your areas of focus. How will you know when things are not going well and they need to be changed? How will you know where's your information coming from in your organization? Ideas of ways that staff communicate with you as the administrator, and how you as the administrator can communicate with your staff. If you run more than one home, you're not on site all the time. If you're always in the home, that's a little different, but I had 8 homes. So I had to come up with a regular way to communicate with staff of what we proved or what we were trying to change. So we collected information from incident reports. Those showed us patterns of falling. Those showed us skin tears. Those showed us if residents had behaviors. We started watching shift change when staff were complaining that they were getting dumped on all the time on housekeeping items. So we started watching that. We did staff meetings and communicated that way. We had a communication log in the house. We would communicate that way with the staff. We're watching Betty this month to see if she's falling still. You can just walk around your own houses and decide this is just sloppy and needs to be improved. I today still have a problem with resident beds that are not made. And because we had all dementia ladies, they couldn't make their bed. So we would make their bed and make the house look really nice. Now I'm working in some mental health homes, and those guys don't want their beds made. So it still is a hard topic for me not to have the bed made. But, and you can also look at your medication audits. When you audit the med card, when you look at the MARS for the month and you have problems there, those are other areas. But these are things that you know that are not going well that can use improvement. And then you can also do emails to you and your staff. To find out areas. Step 4 is the methods you're going to use to collect and analyze the information in order to find the patterns or trends. What you're trying to find out in a pattern is, do certain staff members always have holes in the MARS? That's the pattern. So then if you can identify that, then you can retrain those staff. So those are the pattern. That's an idea of a pattern or trend. You're also trying to find out if the same resident keeps falling. She said 7 falls in a month. That's a pattern. We used to call fall patterns of anything more than 3 in the same month was a pattern. So then you can start working on those. So during your quality management meetings, you look at all the incident reports or fall reports to see if any of the residents show a pattern of falling. You look at your house inspections to see if the same staff member is leaving the shift without completing all the duties. This just makes your house run like tit for tat when people aren't pulling their share. She said she was going to empty the trash. Well, she said she was going to. I always have to mop the floor. It's a nightmare. It's a nightmare for administrators. I can't even stand that. So, Or at the month end, the review in the MARs for holes in the MARs or inaccurate documentation. The state is all over those problems of don't let them find that the staff said refused and that they pull the meds and there's no meds in there. How did a resident refuse the med when it's not available? So they will find those things of inaccurate documentation on a MAR. But you got to design some type of way to collect the information that you're looking at. And then how do you investigate when something did not go well? You sometimes need dig a little bit deeper than what shows up on this surface. There's a term called root cause analysis. Well, you know somebody's falling. Why are they falling? If you have to back it up, you know what the problem is, but you have to go backwards and find out why is she falling. So here's an example. Betty has fallen 7 times in a month. Well, the root cause analysis is exploring why do you think she's falling? Well, some ideas you could explore is, did she have a change in medication that's making her dizzy? Her new bedspread that her daughter bought, all of these things happen to me, by the way. Her new bedspread that her daughter bought her is bigger and it drags on the floor, causing her to get tangled in it when she gets out of bed in the morning. So there's another one. The previous injury had not healed yet, and she wasn't willing to bear weight on a leg that was still hurting. Here's a really funny one that actually happened to a gentleman. His toenails were so long, they were curling under his feet, and then he would try to walk with his toes in the air and he was falling. He would not let the staff, he never wanted to take off his slippers, so the staff didn't know that his toenails were so long. So we did figure that situation out. They could also just have a decline in cognition. That happens when you take care of dementia residents. Sometimes their depth perception gets off, but all of these can help you to find what caused the problem of falling. So once you know the cause of the problem, then you have to implement some type of improvement strategies. You have to have documentation for the improvements made, the description of the problem or the areas of concern and how it will be corrected and who will provide the corrections. So an example is, the incident report said Betty fell 7 times. Here's our corrections that we made. Staff contacted her physician to see if any of her medications have dizziness as a side effect, and maybe that could be the reason. Sometimes when residents lose weight, their medications are too strong for them. And so you can contact a physician and say she keeps falling. So if he didn't change the medication, maybe he needs to lower the dose. We had maintenance man rearrange the bedroom, and we had one lady that she couldn't see her shoes in the closet, so she had to have them out on the floor. But once we got her a little basket to put them in, she was fine with that. So she was tripping over her shoes. You can also get a bed cane to help somebody get out of bed. We've had that issue be able to solve falls because people are falling out of bed because they don't have anything to help them get out of bed with. And then the house manager updated Betty's care plan about the fall concerns. So you can see we have our improvement strategies. We've documented them. We know a direction that we're going for Betty. That doesn't mean all of these are going to work. It's just we have our improvement strategies to try to solve her problem of falling. Well, then if you've got improvement strategies, you have to show that you explain these to the staff. You have to have, I used to put the changes right in the care plan and have the staff initial them right next to it. Do not put a change in a care plan on a sticky note because the sticky note falls off. So you just write it right on the care plan. You don't have to make a fresh new copy of the care plan. Just write it on the care plan. Betty's falling, watch for this. And you can take meeting notes and address it in the staff meetings. You just when you have your staff meetings, you communicate it that way. But you do have to take notes that you talked about in the staff meeting, because in the state health department's eyes, if you didn't have it documented, it never happened. So you cannot just say, oh yeah, we talked about all those in the meetings. No, you didn't, because it wasn't documented. So you can share your Q&P meeting notes with staff via email. That's what we did. At the end of the month, me and my quality care manager, we had the meeting, we wrote out the results of the meeting, and we emailed all the notes to all the house managers. They had to get back to me to say, I read them. She would print them, put them in the staff communication binder, so all the staff read them. So we only had one quality management plan for all 8 homes. And then we ran it that way. Now you might have specific projects that you need to have in in one home because they had issues on their care plans or in their state inspections. But so we also emailed Betty's daughter to tell her the changes that we'd made. So we did our due diligence to communicate it to the staff and to her daughter. The reason you want to keep the family in the loop on any improvement that you made is it keeps the family from getting kind of upset and calling the state. Her family knew that we were working on it. We knew she fell 7 times. we knew she looked like somebody smacked her around in a bar because she fell. So at least we met the daughter head on and said, we know this is happening. Here's what we're doing to try to improve it. And we're keeping you in the loop. That keeps her from getting all wound up and calling the state. How will the strategy or correction be evaluated for effectiveness? Well, how do you know if it worked? How are we going to know unless we compare 1 month to the next month? So Betty fell 7 times. And the incident reports, the April incident reports only showed she fell twice. So we have compared March to April because we implemented some of those changes. The doctor made some changes. We rearranged her room. So now we know it must be working somehow because she has less falls. Something worked in that mix of things we tried to do. But you have to kind of compare. If you're going to do certain areas of focus for 90 days, you've got to go back and look to see how many holes in the Mars did you have in March? How many did you have in April? How many did you have in May? Well, if they're getting worse, then your strategy for improvement is not working. I'm working with a company now that they're trying to have fewer out of stock meds than they had before. Well, it went in the wrong direction. January was 12, February was 17, March was 21. So what we thought was going on is the staff wasn't calling in the medications on time. What we found out, it was the pharmacy wasn't delivering them in it like we thought they should in 3 days. They were taking sometimes 10 days. And because of the staff in the house, they didn't really know when somebody had called it in, what the pharmacy said, you know. So after 3 months, we ended up having to get a different pharmacy because the pharmacy could not, they didn't have enough drivers. They were caught short of staff like everybody is. So our improvement strategies of training all the staff to call in the meds didn't work. And we knew it wasn't working. So then we changed it again and we kept that quality management item in there. Is, you know, the next 3 months we did it, January, February, March, didn't work. So then we're going to do April, May, June, and with a new pharmacy, and hopefully we have that corrected. So the first 2 weeks of March is showing promise for us. So we think we have it corrected. And we actually went above that because now we train the staff on order meds. So you can't figure out if you're making improvements unless you're willing to go backwards and look at your back records of what your strategies were and did they work. All facilities are required to have regular quality meetings. And this is all not in regulation either, but if you do quarterly meetings and you had an issue that should have been addressed sooner, you're going to get flagged on it because you can't wait 3 months to address issues with Betty falling. If we had waited 3 months, she might have broke a hip. We addressed it after the first month. She fell 7 times. We implemented some things and she's only fell twice. So we could show the state health department, here's what we did. And she wasn't falling as much. If you call the state health department and say, how often do I have to have meetings? They'll say as when you deem that you need to have meetings. So I just advise people just do a monthly. Then you're taking care of things in a timely manner because you're having a monthly. If you have an every other week staff meeting and you want to do it during then too, you can have 2 meetings, not a big deal. But if you wait 3 months, they'll tag you on it because they're going to find something that should have been improved before 90 days. They're going to want to see documentation of your meeting notes. So you can't just have a verbal meeting and everybody sign and say we were here. The state's not all over recorded meetings. They're not really paperless. So they really like to have meeting notes they could see. You have to keep your areas of focus for at least 3 months so you can show improvements. If you identify something for 1 month and then you never go back to it, well, how are you going to show improvement? Today I was at a facility and they decided they would look at when staff called 911 for one resident. I'm like, that's not an area of focus. You want a bigger title of that is, does staff know to call 911 for everybody that's in here? Because obviously if you're only tracking it for that one lady, she may not go back to the ER for 6 months. How can you track that? Have you made improvements in, does your staff know when to call 911? So I said, you can't list it like that. You have to say, the staff clearly know when to call 911 or to seek medical attention for all the residents. And then when you do your looking back, you say, well, Betty fell and could not get up, but staff helped her up anyway. She was in pain and they didn't call. They didn't seek medical attention for 3 or 4 days. That's probably not a great one, you know. So you just need to have broader categories and something that you can track over time. Every survey tag that you get on your survey now has to show up in your quality management plan. So if you got 26 survey tags, you now get 26 items in your quality management plan for 3 months. And when you write your plan of correction, you have to actually use, we had out of stock medications. We're going to watch this for 90 days, and you have to watch it for 90 days, and you have to document it for 90 days that we watched it. We didn't have any out of stock medications. Or if your surveyor comes in and you have a resident that fell 8 times without anything done to help her out and keep her from falling, they're going to tag you on a resident that perhaps maybe is over your care, or they're going to tag your staff that they're not trained correctly, or worse, they can get you for neglect of resident care because you did not address her needs. So those are all scary incidents, but that's what they're looking for. They're looking for a quality management plan that's proactive and not reactive, you know. So if you get 26 survey tags, then don't decide your own 3 more quality management plans, just projects. You just live with the 26 that you have, and then document them for 90 days, and then you can go back to 4 or 5, you know, something like that. But the state is coming back on places that have 26 survey tags, and they're coming back like within 6 weeks to see if you improved them and did you correct them. And then if you didn't and they find them again, then they're going to tag you a second time. And now they're pretty much doing 3 times that you get decided on something, then you just buy yourself a consultant, which is not fair to do, I don't think, but that's what they're doing. So here's a little question and answer. Do you have to share the quality management plan with your staff? Yes. Does your staff need to know where to find the plan if you're not in the building when the state comes? Yes. So the state will come in, oftentimes when they'll come in and say, I need your policy and procedure manual, I need your quality management plan. The state can also ask for your quality management plan to be sent to them digitally. They only give you a day to do that, so don't wait to write it and think that you can write it once they ask for it, because they only give you a day. Do you have to show your quality management plan to your families? No, you do not. This is like airing your dirty laundry to your prospects, so you do not have to do that. Some places do, and that's fine, but I did not, because I didn't want them to know that Betty was falling 7 times. It wasn't their business, you know. And then CDPHE can ask for an electronic copy of your or of your quality management plan. If you decide to share your quality management plan with family members, then you need to make sure it's scrubbed for any HIPAA violations. Because if you put stuff in there that the staff didn't seek 911 for Walter when they thought he had a heart attack, that just broke HIPAA all the way around the top, you know. Your family shouldn't know Walter had a heart attack, and they really shouldn't know that your staff was negligent in not calling 911. So I'm not a big fan of sharing it with your families, but you can if you want to. So what's a quality management plan? It's a pretty easy way to improve the issues or their areas of focus in your building. Why is it important? Well, for one, it's a regulation, and how to design one, you know, we just did the 1, 2, 3 steps of how to do that. And it will improve the operations by pointing out what has not been going well and what you're working on improving, and then you move on to something else. So it really does work. I know a lot of places that change their areas of focus, you know, every 3 months, and that works. I had very broad categories, like I did resident care and services, then I did staff training, I did food service, and I did activities. Something rolled up under those all the time. So I could just show different areas of that we were working on each time. So yeah, and it's going to help you find things that are not going well. Most places know when things aren't going well. They're just not taking the time to go back and address it. You know, when your administrators should know all the time how many people fell that month. Some places nobody falls, and other places like dementia units, you know, you might have 12 fall reports in a month if you've got several homes. So you do need to watch those things, and the administrator is 100% responsible to know what is going on in the home. If you run multiple homes, then set up a process that your staff is faxing the incident reports to your office or scanning them to your emails, because you've got to know what's going on. You've got to know when some of the staff aren't following the menu because they don't want to. It's easier to make scrambled eggs, and all the ladies have dementia. They don't know what they had for dinner anyway. So, so it's not okay with me that they would do some stuff like that, but it happens. I know people that have their staff take pictures of the dinners because they suspected their staff is not cooking quality meals and nobody's showing up. And if you have several homes, you can't be in 8 homes at dinner time to see what's going on. So yeah, so that's really the down and simple one. The email that Renee sent around is sometimes you don't even know where to start. Like I remember when I first wrote mine, I thought, well, where do I start? So I really just started with, we run this company. We have 8 group homes. Our target market is people with dementia. The houses have anywhere from 5 to 7 beds, and we staff it like this. And so I just started with a description of what is the home, what's the population you serve, and what's the services that you offer. And then at least gives you some place to start other than looking at a blank piece of paper trying to figure out where to start. And then you just do the 1, 2, 3, 0, and out. And decide your areas of focus. Decide how, put down why you decided those. How are you going to communicate with them? What's going to be your improvement strategies? So you kind of have to work the plan backwards and forwards. You just decide on your areas of focus, communicate to everybody, but it's very fluid. It goes backwards and forwards, And then you have ideas for other people. Once you start tracking falls, you have ideas of, wow, maybe, and then staff know maybe it's a med change, or they look for that when they have a drastic med change. Betty went to the hospital, she came back with 3 new meds, and all of a sudden she's doing this when she's standing up. It's probably medication related, and they flag the doctors immediately because they're used to seeing those things, So, yeah, so I think that is the down and dirty. This is what the surveyors will look for. This is off of their site. There is a place on the Co-Train site now that will show you what a quality management plan should include. I thought it was going to be awesome. It pretty much did repeat some of the language that's in the regulations that we don't understand anyway. What risk or areas of focus are identified? Who's your QMP team? How you collected your information? How does the staff report concerns, and how do you communicate back with them? The frequency of the QMP evaluations or meetings, the types of corrections made, and checking and monitoring completed projects. So once you show for even 2 months that you've made improvements, you can move on to a different project if you want. If you haven't made improvements, then don't drop that project because you haven't solved the problem. If Betty's still falling 7 times for every single month, you haven't solved that problem. Perhaps Betty's above what you should be caring for. But don't drop the project just because you can't solve it, because they'll find it. They'll ask for all 12 months of your meeting notes. And then they'll say, oh, you just dropped the project because you couldn't solve the problem. You knew what the problem was, you couldn't solve it, so you just dropped it. So they'll look for that. But yeah, so it's not a hard process. Some of you are new and don't have homes, but this is what the quality management plan does. I think this needs to be developed right when you start your operations, because this will start you off on the right foot from the beginning. You don't open your home and then play catch up when they get there to surveyor, because if you do a change of ownership survey, they're going to survey you and they're going to ask for your quality management plan. But what if the other company had a poor one? Well, then you just got tagged again for having a poor one because you accepted that poor one. So I think if somebody buys a home within the first 6 weeks, you just should have rewritten all the policies and procedures and the quality management plans. You should have probably re-signed your leases and updated any training that's your staff doesn't have. And you have to do pedal to the metal to get that done in 6 weeks. So, but I have done it with some places that did a change of ownership. I said, we are pedal to the metal to change this in 6 weeks. And then we're going to be a clean start when the state comes in, because they did inherit about 10 problems from the previous owner. So we got them all cleaned up within 6 weeks. And then the state did come in and didn't find anything. So that we were glad about that. So. All right, do we have any questions from all of you out there?
Hi, Janet. This is Maggie. I just want to tell you, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Good. I just wanted to tell you that this was an excellent presentation, very concise, but very thorough. I am going to go tomorrow and whittle down my QMP because it's pretty cumbersome sometimes. So I'm gonna.
I hear you, because I was so awesome. When you include things and the state's going to look at them, you can give the state only what they need. But I was doing so awesome. I did mock surveys on every home every month, and then I put them in every house. And then the state went back through and said, "Oh, you knew the rug wrinkles after you shampoo it, so now we found it." So be careful and don't have it. I learned the hard way. It doesn't need to be giant. Just score it.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to redo it. So thank you so much. It was so very helpful.
Yeah.
Hi, Janet. This is Jag. How are you?
I'm good, Jag. This is like old home week here. I know you guys.
Yeah, no, it is. I totally agree. Great job. Simple, right to the point. One question about medication. So let's say that there is an insurance problem. It requires a prior authorization, which a lot of insurance companies do because it's an expensive drug. So you cannot send it to the home now. So in those cases, what do you suggest? Because pharmacy cannot send it unless insurance is going to pay for it.
Yeah, and that is a problem. Or, you know, what I'm advising people to do is get a hold order.
Okay.
Ask the physician for a hold order until it's available. I know of an MS drug that's not available anywhere, and they can't find it. And so the place got dinged for 21 missed dosage of an MS med that is not available. And so I said, you should have got a hold order. If after it's not available for a couple of days, get a hold of the physician and get a hold order.
So hold order will keep you from getting dinged.
And then it's held. And then you write it in the MAR that this order's been held. Yeah, that's the only thing I can do. Jag, what do you think about that? I did. That's the only, Nicole and I talked about this, Nicole Scavone and I, because she went through the nightmare of it. And that's the only thing we could think of is get a hold order.
And you know,
No,
Janet, this is Maggie again. We have been doing that for years, and the physicians don't mind doing it because they understand you have problems getting things from the pharmacy. And the last time we had a survey, the surveyor did say that's the best thing to do.
They did. See, I haven't been surveyed on that, but I can't
Yeah.
come up with an option. Yeah. Because the state is not willing to budge on out of stock. They are not. It is your responsibility to get the med in. And it's like, well, how can we do that if the pharmacy can't fill it because the insurance won't pay for it? And they said, have the family private pay it for 4 days. It's
Well,
like, it's
and not only
that-
that, the physician needs to know that they're not getting these meds.
And maybe he has an alternate. Maybe there's an alternate that the insurance company will approve faster. What do you think about that, Jag?
yeah, no, absolutely. That should be the first, because most insurance companies, they may not cover product A, but they will cover the product B. So that should be the first step, saying, hey, is there any alternate which this particular insurance will cover? I also have seen where family members, because of their experience, they will say, you know what, that inhaler mom needs, go ahead and send it. I will fight with the insurance and make sure they pay it. And most of the time, you know, that prior authorization, I would say over 90% do get approved. So sometime if you have the family authorization, hey, I'll cover you. If it doesn't go through, just bill it to me or something. I have seen that as well.
Yeah, yeah. So that's the only thing yeah. Thanks, Maggie, for the update on what the health department said, though, because I didn't know that. That's the best we can offer.
Right.
Any other? I am on, I don't know, 27 copy sites now. Because people don't like to do their plan corrections because they're just not fun, and 95% of them get rejected, you know, because there's so much drama. Has anybody got a recent survey now? It used to be here, they just tell you the problem is. Now they tell you all the drama that led them to find the problem. Like at 7:05 this happened, 7:10 this happened, 8:10 this happened. There's so much drama, you can't even figure out what the problem is. And so I worked with Betsy, who does those. I said, Betsy, people can't even find out what the problem is. She goes, I'll give you a secret. She said, right after it says the facility failed, that's the problem. But she said, and so I said, I don't need to read all the drama if you load that. She goes, no, because I said, so the reason some people are failing to do the plan of correction is they can't figure out what the problem is. And you can't suggest the solution on your plan of correction unless you know what the problem is, you know, but they are watching for falls. They're watching for out of stock medications. You know, it seems like they went from get away from COVID. Now they're honing in on other things. They're looking for resident rosters, which is just a simple list of your resident, their room number, and their emergency contact number. They don't want to know anything else. That's all that has to be on there. And then it has to be part of your move-in process to add the new person that moved in. And if somebody gets discharged, you have to take the person off, because if they go around and you have 7 residents on there and you have 9 people in your house, they just ding you for not updating your resident roster. roster. Or if they go around and you say the roster says you have 10 and you only have 8, well, you didn't update your roster. So then they're dinging you on that too. So, and they list that under a tag 540, the administrator failed to know what was going on in the home. And they list that for everything. So,
I have a question for you.
yeah.
What's a good way to document this? Is it in Excel, in Word? Is there some sort of proprietary software or?
There really isn't. I did it in Word, but I know some people that are doing it in Excel. They can just bring it up again. And then it does have some calculations in there, especially if you got a lot of residents that you're watching. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But that would be easy too. But it just has to have some I know some places that are handwriting it. They're doing their staff meeting at, a breakfast place and they're jotting it down then, and then they're just putting it back in the notebook. Whatever is easiest for you. Do not spend the time recopying forms. I was in a home the other day and she makes her staff take the incident report and write it into a quality management report. And it's the same information. I said, why are you doing that? She goes, well, it needs to say quality management. I said, no, it doesn't. Just take the incident report. The incident report has to stay in the resident file, but have them make a copy of it and put it in your quality management folder and call it good. Because if your supporting documents are part of your incident reports, then they should be stapled to the notes of the meeting to show you this is our supporting documents that led us to these decisions. Or emails or whatever. Yeah. But don't make it harder on yourself than you need to. Don't recopy things. If you forget to list something, I had to get over my OCD that form had to look all nice. And if I forgot to add something, I just handwrote it at the bottom. It's good enough. Because you will want it perfect, and then you'll be cited because you didn't go back and make it perfect and it wasn't that. The state will find stuff, So just write it in the margin of the care plan, write it at the bottom of the incident report, write it wherever you need to write it to document it, but just get it documented over trying to be perfect.
How can somebody work with you if they're planning on purchasing a facility, doing a change of ownership? Can they hire you to help them with that change so you can identify those things? And
Yep. I just did it for a guy that's looking at a property. It's probably 50 beds. And so I said I hadn't done it before. And so I told him, I said, it's probably 2 to 3 hours for me to go in there. And all I'm doing is looking to see if we think they're compliant. We're not trying to pinpoint 100%. We're trying to look at their quality management plan. We're looking at a sample of their staff records. We're looking at a sample of their resident records, and we're looking at their policies and procedures. I have a list of all the policies and procedures that are supposed to go in there. So I literally go down their list and I go check, circle. We don't have this one. We don't have this. So it doesn't take that long. It took us about 3 hours to go through the building to look at his operations to see if he's compliant. I have worked on the other side of that when a company did not know they were compliant, and it cost them about $3,700 for us to go through all the files, all the resident files, all the staff files, the policy and procedure, and the quality management plan. And it probably took us six weeks to 2 months of, and I wasn't the only one doing it. The administrator was doing it side by side, and it took us that long to get everything back up to where it should be. Mm-hmm. I think if you're buying a home, at least you can do is have the previous owner split that bill with you. I think that's because places have been under the gun. We've done COVID for 2.5 years. So a lot of places didn't know they were supposed to update their policies and procedures annually. They didn't know their quality management plan was supposed to be revised and updated annually. So I think if you're buying a place, you should split that. You should split the cost of somebody coming in and cleaning up the mess. But it's about 3 hours if you want me to do that. If it's a smaller home, it's probably not that long. I went into a home the other day. They had 28 residents. I looked at 2 resident files and said none of them were up to date. I found care plans that had not been updated since 2016. I said, I'm going to tell you right now, none of those up there are compliant. So they didn't have to pay me a lot to tell them that. I did not want to go through and make a list of who wasn't compliant. I had a hunch that none of them were compliant. So the administrator went through on her own time. She said, you're right, none of them were compliant. She said, you guessed right. So yeah. And then come up with a simple way to get them updated. We decided the easiest way to do that was 5 at a time. And then we decided, she kept going back through them to make sure she had worked on them. I said, let's stop doing that. Let's put a purple sticker on them if we're working on them, and put a green sticker on them if they're complete. And when the state health department comes in and asks for 3 wows, grab the green stickers because we know who did those. And so she said, that's a great idea. So because the state will ask you, give me 3 resident files, you give them 3. Yeah, but they won't know what your color coding is if your green is ready to go.
that's a great tip.
Yeah. So that works.
Any other questions?
How many of you have a quality management plan?
If you have a quality management plan, you've got a facility, go ahead and raise your virtual hand. I don't know if everyone's asleep or they just, oh, Maggie does. Good. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, Meg. I know some of you out there should have one because I know where you are.
She knows who's sleeping.
I know where you are and I know where you're located. I know you should have one. And I know you've been an operator for a while.
Dale got it out there.
Watch him get himself into get no time. So, yeah, it's not that hard though. I have a website that has some forms on it too. It has another form on there for quality management plan if you need those, because they're on my website and you can just go in and buy it. It's through PayPal. You can just buy them.
That's right. You got some templates.
I have some templates and I did not make them PDFs because if you want to change them, just change them. It doesn't make a difference to me. But I just
What
wanted
is
to
that
give you the
website?
It's www.scac-janet.com.
Peter's gonna put that in the chat
Oh,
for
yeah,
you.
yeah, okay. Yeah, there's forms on there. And it's just really the Word document, you can change it, because some of them, you may not have to train your staff. Like Maggie, you have more mental illness, right?
Yes.
Okay, so you would want to take the dementia slot out of there, because I had to show I did training on dementia. You would want to say training for mental illness.
Okay.
Your home may not, my homes had basements, and so one of my monthly checkoff forms I put in there that we have to walk this basement weekly, because we kept having water in the basement staff didn't know about, you know. And we ruined some resident files and we got tagged from the state health department because we didn't have the files up. And I didn't know the staff put them on the floor, you know, so we had to start doing stuff, but you can change any of those. There's a monthly checkoff form in there of everything that needs to be checked. There's incident reports. I've been tagged on incident reports. Your incident report has to have on there, did you notify the physician? And if it's not on your form, your staff isn't going to remember to do it. So I would make them circled that I contact the physician, and the answer is either yes or no. So if it's no, I immediately called them back and said, why didn't you contact the physician? They said, well, it's really not that bad. I said, you know, the policy is contact the physician. Or did you call the family? Because families don't like when they come to visit and then the staff goes, oh, by the way, you know, I don't know if Shelley told you, but your mom fell 3 times last week. They don't like that stuff. They like somebody just call them right away. Your mom fell again. We're working on it. So some of those forms kind of prompt your staff on what they're supposed to do.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, I think do we have any more questions? I think this is a good time for you to talk about the 40-hour administrator training coming up.
Okay. I have not been happy with some of the classes that are taught out there, especially for group homes, because they kind of ping pong you around everywhere. So I, for a long time, wanted it to be that you teach the administrator's class. It is 40 hours. It is, the state decides what needs to be taught. So I designed it into, first of all, what do you need for the business? You need a business plan, you need some marketing stuff. You know, there's certain things you have to do in the home setting before you even, or for the business before you even start.
We're almost done.
You have to know your budgeting. You have to know kind of what are things that it costs you, so you can have an idea of what you're working with. Then you move on to the actual facility. You have a home, you have to post certain things in the home. The administrator's stuff has to be up there. You have to have locked cabinets for meds. You have to have, you know, a med management program that you're following. You have to have your policies and procedures. You have to have your quality management plan. That's all that has to be in the facility before you even start your operation. And then the next section is your staff, because you have to have staff before you can have residents. So then you go through all the stuff that has to do with staff training. You know, everything you have to do to get your staff hired. How's the best way to interview them? We are in a huge crisis for staffing now. And if you're waiting 3 days before you check Indeed on your posting, those people already have a job. So we started having to check Indeed every day, you know, and try to get them in for a phone
She used
interview.
to be an administrator. Now she's doing consulting for her. So she started her own company. I think we should have her come in and figure out what's being done right and wrong down there.
Hey, Maggie, you're not muted. I'd love to come in. Yeah. So, yeah. And so I wanted to teach the administrator's class because I don't think some of the classes are being taught. I do not think they make the administrator understand the depth of their job for a group home. I also don't think they set you up to succeed. I've seen administrators do a great job when they have one home and then they get 3 and they fail miserably. Because they don't have any systems in place to do the administrator job, and they don't have clear-cut job descriptions of who's doing what. So the administrators run around town getting milk and paper towel, and then she's not doing he or she's not doing her administrator stuff. So you have to set it up from the beginning, because you might start with just one home, and in some ways 3 homes is easier to run than 1. So you have to set it up from the beginning. Who is doing what? And so that comes under the some of the business in the house, and then you really do have to have strict guidelines of what the staff is doing, because if they're more than willing to let you pick up the slack when you're there, and then you're not getting your stuff done when you're in the house, and then you move it on to the residents. You have to have a good move-in process, because playing catch up with resident records is awful. And I know from experience, nobody has a sense of urgency to bring you back paperwork once you're taking care of their mom. But if you won't take care of their mom until it's all done, they got a huge sense of urgency, because I have declined to have somebody. I said, sorry, she's not moving in. The paperwork's not done. We started working on the paperwork a week ago, and I call them the day before and say, is 100% of the paperwork done? Well, no. Well, then don't bring her tomorrow morning unless it's done. Or I've had families show up, and then we ended up defining our move-in is from 9 to 2, Monday through Thursday. And families would say, sorry, I can't do it till Saturday. I said, we don't do Saturday moves because the doctor's office is not open. And I took a resident on a Saturday one time, thought I had all my ducks in a row, and Jag's just going to have she showed up with a heart med and we didn't have an order. And the family insisted that she take it. The other facility wasn't serving it, and everybody was in a panic. And I had to track the physician down on a Saturday. And boy, did he give me an earful on that. And she was not supposed to be taking the med. And the daughter was trying to tell me, I know she takes it. I know she takes it. That was the last Saturday move I did. Never again. And if families are that much of a panic and move mom in, anytime you race through a move in, you're going to make mistakes, and you're going to be tracking down that stuff forever. Or you've moved in somebody that is a problem, maybe that somebody's not telling you about, So that's what you do on the administrator's classes. We design a firm move-in process and how to get your resident records in order from the beginning, and then you're not playing catch up all the time. So it'll be a Zoom class. It'll be 3.5 hours for 5 business days, and then we'll wrap up. We do 2 sessions every week, and then the second week will be the same. It will be Monday through Friday from 9 to 12:30. I think that's a doable chunk of time. 8 hours on Zoom is exhausting. And there's a lot of content in chat. It goes through all chapters, guys. The administrator's class does chapter 7, chapter 2, and chapter 24. So it's not easy.
And I just put up a QR code. It's starting, our first one is starting on April 7th. So I can't remember, was it 9 or 9:30?
9 was the, yeah.
Okay.
And that's just the orientation part of it. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's an orientation on Friday, April 7th. That is a requirement. And then the class is Monday, the 10th through the Friday of the 21st of April. So we do have I know Zoom, we can have as many people as you want, but we want to make this as a smaller class size. So I think we were saying 10 is
somewhere on there. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. And then I also wanted to give some people the opportunity to audit the class. I have found group homeowners that once they got some of their staff and administrator certificate, the staff left and got a different job because they were marketable. So I think those people that run a lot of group homes should have an option to have their staff audit the class. So it's about half price to audit the class. Or if you've taken a different class and you don't need the certificate, but you don't feel like you know what you're doing, I think you need to have the option to audit the class. And then you just get a kind of a certificate of participation. You can come to all of them. You can come to some of them. You can take the quizzes. You cannot, but there's some things maybe that you don't know that you would like to just start over. Or if you want to have, I just think there needs to be an option to audit the class, and nobody's doing that. So I think that's important.
Yeah. So you can, I think Peter dropped that link to register in the chat. So you can go there, or if you like the QR code option here, you can scan that, take a picture, well, not take a picture, but use your phone to get to that website. And what else were we going to talk about? Oh, I'm going to make one more announcement here. If I can advance my slide. Denver ALR, we are starting up our membership program again. And Peter, thanks to Peter from assisted living marketing, he created our website here so that you can sign up for your membership. And with that, you're going to get discounted or free classes, invitation to exclusive events, and we are putting a bunch on the calendar this year. Free 1-hour strategy sessions with Vern, exclusive discounts and offers from our sponsors. I'm working on a huge lineup of sponsors as well. I don't want to jinx it by announcing a couple of the things I've got in the works, but they're going to be good, especially if you're in growth. No, I don't want to jinx it. Awards, lunch and learn events. We're doing lunch and learns this year. You'll see those popping on the calendar here pretty quick. And then classes, free templates, resources in the members only vault. So for membership has its privileges. So you will have a private vault for members only that has special, free, awesome content to help you run your facilities more efficiently, effectively, and more profitably, so that you continue to have the impact that you'd like to have in our communities. So you can get there by clicking that or scanning that QR code, or on our website, DAALR.com, you can get to the membership tab, and it is right there, ready for you. Oh, and there is a couple options down here I didn't capture in the screen capture here, but you can either do it monthly for $19.99 a month, or you can do it all at once for $199.